My name is Charlotte Bennett, and I was 27 years old when my mother laughed in my face and finally said out loud what she had been proving my entire life. I was sitting at my parents' dining table in Raleigh, North Carolina, listening to them talk about my twin sister's wedding like it was a national event. Imported flowers, a private garden venue, a designer gown, luxury cars for guest transportation, a honeymoon in Italy. My mother, Margaret, was glowing with pride. My father, Richard, kept pretending to be calm about the money, even though I could see the stress in the way he kept rubbing his forehead. And my twin sister, Vivian, sat there smiling like the whole world had been built just to admire her. I waited until there was a pause in the conversation. Then I asked the question that changed everything. What about my share of the wedding fund? The room went silent. Not confused silent. Guilty silent. My mother placed her wine glass down and looked at me like I had just embarrassed the family. Vivian lowered her eyes, but she was smiling. My father cleared his throat and reached for his water. That was when I knew. Something was wrong. I asked again, this time more carefully. Mom, Dad, where is my part of the wedding fund? My mother leaned back in her chair. Then she smiled. Not kindly, not nervously, cruelly. Charlotte, she said, gold and dirt are not the same. For a moment, I did not understand what she meant. Then Vivian clapped once, a sharp little clap. Like my humiliation was the final joke of the evening. My mother continued. Your sister is marrying into a family where appearances matter. Her wedding needs to open doors. You and Daniel are planning something small anyway. You don't need the same kind of help. I looked at my father. He would not look at me. I looked at Vivian. She shrugged like I was being dramatic. And suddenly, my whole childhood made sense in one sentence. Gold and dirt are not the same. Vivian was gold. I was dirt. I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not beg them to explain how they could spend my grandparents' money and even the money I had added myself on my sister's wedding. I simply stood up. My mother said, "Don't be dramatic." My father said, "We can talk about this later." Vivian rolled her eyes and whispered, "Of course she has to ruin the mood." I picked up my purse, took my keys from the table, and walked out. Behind me, my mother was calling my name. But for the first time in my life, I did not turn around. To understand why that night broke something in me, you have to understand the kind of family I came from. Vivian and I were twins, but we were never treated like equals. She was charming, dramatic, beautiful, and loud in a way people found entertaining. She could enter any room and somehow make everyone feel like they were waiting for her. I was quieter. I liked order. I liked planning. I liked knowing exactly where I stood. My mother called me serious, like it was a disease. My father called me difficult whenever I questioned why Vivian got away with things I was punished for. If Vivian cried, she was sensitive. If I cried, I was manipulative. If Vivian failed, she needed support. If I succeeded, I was making her feel bad. That was the pattern in our house. Vivian was protected from consequences. I was trained to survive without comfort. At school events, my mother never missed Vivian's performances, even when she was barely prepared. But she missed my academic awards because, according to her, you don't need an audience for everything. At birthdays, Vivian got the cake she wanted because she cared more about those things. I got whatever was convenient because I was easy. Relatives heard stories about Vivian's beauty, Vivian's personality, Vivian's future. Then my mother would point at me and say, "Charlotte is the smart one." Smart, useful, reliable, but never cherished. For years, I thought if I became successful enough, they would finally see me. So I studied hard. I got scholarships. I worked weekends. I paid for my own laptop. I helped my father with paperwork for his consulting business. I helped my mother with her boutique events. I cleaned up Vivian's messes whenever she cried hard enough. But nothing changed. Every achievement of mine became a threat. Every failure of Vivian's became a family emergency. The wedding fund was the one thing I believed was protected. My grandparents, Eleanor and Thomas Bennett, had started it when Vivian and I were teenagers. Grandma Eleanor told us both that the money was for our futures, equal, fair, untouchable. I still remembered her squeezing my hand and saying, "Charlotte, this is yours too. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." When I started working part-time in high school, I even added small amounts to that fund. Not much, but enough to matter to me. Every dollar came from hours of work. Hours spent serving coffee, filing paperwork, answering phones, and saving instead of spending. I believed that one day, when I got married, there would be something waiting for me too. One fair thing. One piece of proof that I mattered. I should have known better. Vivian got engaged first. Her fiancé, Preston Whitmore, came from an old money family in Charleston. He was a corporate attorney with expensive suits, polished manners, and the kind of last name my mother had always admired from a distance. The moment Vivian showed her ring, my parents lost their minds. My mother cried like Vivian had just been crowned queen. My father opened champagne. Within a week, the wedding became the family's entire identity. Every conversation was about flowers, guest lists, venues, lighting, dresses, and how important it was that the Whitmore family be impressed. "It has to be perfect," my mother kept saying. "The wedding could open doors." That phrase made me sick. Open doors for whom? Not for Vivian's marriage, for my parents' image. Vivian loved the attention. She posted mood boards online, talked about timeless elegance, and pretended she was building a luxury event from scratch. But behind the scenes, my mother kept calling me. Because I worked in event operations. I knew vendors, contracts, deposit schedules, venue holds, catering agreements, transportation issues, backup plans. I knew how to stop a wedding from becoming a financial disaster. My mother never called to ask how I was. She called to ask if I could review a contract, if I could recommend a florist, if I knew someone who could get them better pricing, if I could talk to a venue rep. At first, I helped. I hate admitting that. But when you grow up begging for approval, usefulness feels dangerously close to love. So I helped. I connected them with a venue manager named Lydia Grant, someone who trusted me professionally. I warned them about hidden catering fees. I got them a referral discount with a florist named Camille Torres. I helped delay a transportation deposit because I personally vouched that my family would not embarrass me. My mother thanked me like she was doing me a favor by accepting my help. Vivian barely thanked me at all. She was too busy acting like she had earned everything. Meanwhile, I had my own life in Charlotte. I had moved there after college and built a career I was proud of. I had a small apartment, a steady job, and a fiancé named Daniel Brooks, who loved me in a way that still surprised me. Daniel was calm, thoughtful, and honest. He listened when I spoke. He asked what I wanted before assuming. He never made me feel like I had to perform to deserve love. We wanted a small wedding, something peaceful, maybe a lakeside ceremony, maybe 50 people, good food, warm lights, real vows, a no-fake luxury. For the first time, I could imagine getting married without feeling afraid. I thought my share of the wedding fund would help us begin that life. Then that dinner happened. Gold and dirt are not the same. By the time I reached my car that night, my hands were shaking. But I still did not cry. I opened my laptop from the passenger seat. Because while my family had been treating me like dirt, they had also been building Vivian's dream wedding on my name. And they had forgotten something important. Dirt can still be the ground everything stands on. I sent 3 emails before I even left their driveway. To the venue manager, I wrote that I was withdrawing my personal and professional recommendation from the Bennett Whitmore wedding, and that all pending flexibility should be reviewed according to standard policy. To the florist, I clarified that my referral discount should no longer apply to any unpaid balance. To the transportation vendor, I confirmed that I was not financially or professionally responsible for any part of the account and that no further accommodations should be tied to my name. I did not cancel anything. I did not lie. I did not sabotage. I simply removed the support they had stolen from my reputation. Then I drove back to Charlotte through the night with my phone turned face down. By sunrise, my phone was a disaster. 53 missed calls from my mother, 21 from Vivian, 9 from my father. Voicemails, texts, demands, panic. My mother's first messages were angry. "Charlotte, answer me immediately." Then they became nervous. "What did you say to the venue?" Then desperate. "Please call me. This is your sister's wedding." Vivian's messages were worse. "You're jealous. You're bitter. You're trying to ruin my life." Then finally, "Please don't do this." The florist paused the order. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed one message. "Why are you begging dirt?" I turned off my phone and went to sleep. When I woke up later that afternoon, I expected guilt. I had been trained for guilt. My family had spent years teaching me that refusing to help people who mistreated me was worse than the mistreatment itself. But I did not feel guilty. I felt free. Not happy exactly, not proud, just free. For the first time, I had stepped away and let them feel the weight of what they had built. My mother left a voicemail saying I was taking things too far. My father texted that I was punishing Vivian out of envy. Vivian threatened to tell everyone I was unstable. That almost made me laugh. People like Vivian always assume everyone else is chasing the same spotlight they are. She thought I wanted her wedding. I didn't. I wanted my money, my dignity, my name back. I called Daniel and told him everything. He was silent for a few seconds after I repeated what my mother had said. Gold and dirt. Then he said quietly, "Charlotte, did you lie to anyone?" "No." "Did you steal from anyone?" "No." "Did you do anything wrong?" "No." "Then let them deal with the truth." That was one of the reasons I loved him. He did not confuse peace with surrender. Over the next week, I heard what happened from relatives, mutual friends, and vendors who still respected me. The wedding did not collapse, but it cracked. The venue demanded immediate payment to keep the upgraded package. The florist removed the discount. The transportation vendor refused further delay. The makeup artist heard there were contract issues and requested early payment. My parents scrambled. My father liquidated part of an account he should not have touched. My mother borrowed money from relatives she normally looked down on. Vivian cut some extras, but only the ones that would not show in photos. They kept the dress, of course. They kept the appearance of luxury. Barely. The wedding happened 2 months later. I did not attend. People noticed. Apparently, nobody in my family could keep the story straight. Some guests were told I had a work emergency. Some were told I was sick. Some were told Daniel and I were having problems. One aunt heard that I had become emotionally unstable. That sounded exactly like my mother. It was falling apart because every choice they made was built on a lie. The lie that image mattered more than character. The lie that favoritism had no cost. The lie that I would always stay close enough to be used. 8 months after that dinner, just as Daniel and I were finalizing our wedding plans, my phone rang with a video call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but I answered. My mother's face filled the screen. She looked older, thinner, less polished. My father sat beside her, shoulders heavy. Behind them, on a sofa I did not recognize, sat Vivian. No perfect hair, no smug smile, no performance. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then my mother started crying. Not the dramatic crying she used in public. Real crying. "Charlotte," she said, "we were wrong." I looked at her. Wrong about what? She closed her eyes like the words hurt. Wrong about you. Wrong about your worth. Wrong about the way we treated you. Wrong about choosing appearances over fairness. My father's voice was low when he spoke. I should have stopped it years ago. I told myself I was keeping peace, but I was protecting Vivian from consequences and letting you pay for them. Vivian still would not look directly into the camera. My mother wiped her face. "We want to start over." There it was. The request beneath the apology. "Come back. Stabilize us. Make this easier." I looked at them and felt something I had never expected. Not hatred, not victory. Clarity. "I'm getting married soon," I said. "It will be small, peaceful, filled with people who never made me earn basic dignity." My mother cried harder. Is there any chance we can be there? Vivian finally looked up. For the first time in my life, she looked small. Not humble. Just empty, without an audience. I said, "You taught me exactly what I was to this family when you took what was mine, laughed in my face, and expected me to stay." I belied. "Vedu, I built my life around that lesson. Now you have to live with it too." My mother whispered, "Please." My father looked down. Vivian opened her mouth, then closed it. I continued, "I don't wish ruin on any of you. I hope you learn to treat people with respect before you need something from them. I hope Vivian learns that being favored is not the same as being loved. And I hope you understand that protecting your peace from people who only value you when they need you is not cruelty." I paused. It is self-respect. Then I ended the call. 1 month later, I married Daniel beside a quiet lake under warm lights and old trees. There was no imported flower wall, no luxury transportation, no desperate performance. Just vows. Laughter. Good food. People who came early because they wanted to help. People who hugged me without needing anything from me. As I walked toward Daniel, I did not think about what my family had taken. I thought about what they had failed to destroy. My peace, my judgment, my ability to love without humiliation. My belief that I deserve softness too. That was the ending they never expected me to have. Not revenge with shouting, not revenge with destruction, but a life where their opinion no longer controlled the room. If there is any lesson in my story, it is this. Favoritism poisons everyone. It wounds the child who is neglected, but it also weakens the child who is worshipped. It teaches one child that love must be earned, and the other that love means never facing consequences. It teaches parents to confuse control with care. It teaches families to protect appearances while destroying trust. And it teaches the overlooked child one painful truth. Sometimes healing begins the moment you stop begging to be treated fairly by people who benefit from your silence. Family should be the first place a person learns dignity, not the place they lose it. Love why? Without respect is not love. Forgiveness without change is not reconciliation. And walking away from people who only recognize your worth after they can no longer use you is not betrayal. It is freedom.